Hello, dear listener, and welcome to today's episode of Stoic Warrior, where we explore timeless wisdom and bring it into our daily lives. I'm your host, speaking to you not just as a philosopher, but as a fellow traveler on this journey toward inner strength. Today, we're delving into a topic that touches many of us at some point: the power and purpose of remaining single and how, from a Stoic perspective, choosing to be alone for longer can be one of the most empowering chapters of our lives. You might be asking yourself, isn't being single something to remedy, a state to escape from? But what if I told you that solitude, when embraced rightly, is a forge for resilience and clarity? What if, instead of seeing single as a deficit, we begin to see it as fertile ground for growth? In the next several minutes, and I promise, this will feel less like a lecture and more like a heart-to-heart, I invite you to explore 5 fundamental Stoic insights that reveal why being single longer can truly make you stronger. Part 1. Solitude as a school of self-knowledge. Imagine, for a moment, that you are alone on a peaceful morning, the sky barely lightening, the world still. No messages pinging, no obligations clamoring for your attention, just you and the unbroken expanse of your thoughts. What truths lie buried beneath the surface noise of everyday life, waiting for you to uncover them? The Stoics tell us that true wisdom begins not in the marketplace or the banquet hall, but in the cloistered chambers of our minds. Marcus Aurelius urges, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his soul. In that silence, we encounter ourselves, our hidden fears, our unexamined hopes, our deepest values." Why is this so vital? Because without self-knowledge, all our choices risk becoming echoes of habit, impulse, or outside influence. In solitude, you are stripped of the comforting scaffolding of others' expectations. You cannot rely on conversation to distract you from uncomfortable questions. Who am I when no one is watching? What purposes ignite my passion? Seneca warns against the danger of a mind unsettled by external distractions. The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today. When you pause and turn inward, you reclaim today and all the power it holds. Epictetus challenges us further: seek not the good in external things, place it rather in yourselves. In practice, this means using alone time as a laboratory for your character. Perhaps you keep a journal. As you write, you confront patterns you had never fully acknowledged: a fear of failure, a thirst for approval, a habitual restlessness. You name each impulse and each emotion, and in naming, you tame them. You learn that a thought is not you, it is merely a visitor. You learn to observe with calm curiosity rather than react in haste. Have you ever asked yourself, late at night, what truly matters to you? What legacy do you wish to build? Independent of fame or fortune, these are not idle musings but the bedrock of purposeful action. In the stillness, you might recall Marcus's counsel: look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig. What shovel will you pick up today to dig deeper into your character? Consider adopting a simple daily practice. Sit for 10 minutes at dawn or dusk with a single question: what did I value most today? Let the answer rise unfiltered. Notice how your soul lights up when you remember an act of kindness, a moment of courage, or an instance of self-control. These luminous moments reveal your North Star, guiding you toward a life lived in harmony with your principles. Solitude is not loneliness. It is the fertile soil in which your self-knowledge can take root and flourish. It is a space where you can hear the whisper of your reason, the steady voice of your inner citadel. So I ask you now, will you welcome the gift of your own company? Will you sit, unafraid of what you might find, and cultivate the wisdom that awaits in the depths of you? In that courageous stillness lies the beginning of a life guided not by the fickle winds of circumstance, but by the unshakable compass of your own examined soul. Part 2. Self-reliance and the inner citadel. When life storms gather, perhaps in the form of a failed project, an unexpected bill, or the sting of disappointment, where do you turn for shelter? For the Stoics, true refuge lies not in outward dependencies, but within the fortress of one's character. Epictetus, once bound in chains as a slave, taught that no man is free who is not master of himself. But what does self-mastery look like? And how can prolonged singlehood serve as its crucible? Picture your mind as a citadel perched atop a rocky cliff. External events, the crashing waves, the howling winds might batter its walls, but if its gates are sound and its guards vigilant, the citadel stands firm. When you are single, you have the rare opportunity to become your architect and sentinel. You learn to inspect every tower, your beliefs, impulses, and judgments, and reinforce any weak points. What assumptions are you conceding power to? Which fears have you allowed in through an unbarred gate? Marcus Aurelius offers a guiding light. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Here lies a radical shift. Rather than cursing the tempest, you turn your energy inward, examining your responses. When anxiety or grief arises, you ask, "Is this within my control?" If not, you practice letting it pass. If yes, you respond thoughtfully, with purposeful action. Over time, these small victories against impulsive reactivity become the very bedrock of resilience. Seneca, too, underscores this path. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. How many times have you braced for a catastrophe that never materialized, only to feel drained by anxiety's phantom weight? In solitary practice, you sharpen the edge of awareness. You observe a worrying thought, label it, there's fear again, and choose not to feed it. This exercise, repeated day by day, gradually transforms you from a passenger in your mind into a skilled pilot. Let me pose a question. When was the last time you faced a challenge and instinctively knew that no one else's validation was required? Perhaps you wrestled with a demanding deadline or learned a difficult skill on your own. In those moments, did you feel a surge of something unmistakable, pride rooted not in vanity but in the calm satisfaction of self-reliance? That feeling is the heartbeat of the inner citadel, a testament to your capacity to meet life's trials without retreat. Practical steps can cement this practice. First, cultivate a morning ritual, writing a brief list of what is within your power today, your effort, your perspective, your choices. Then, as you encounter obstacles, revisit that list. Are you focusing on what you can change, or on what lies beyond your reach? Next, adopt the Stoic pause when an emotion flares. Count to 5, breathe, and respond as if you were advising a dear friend. This simple habit trains you to pause before reacting, transforming knee-jerk turmoil into measured resolve. In extended singlehood, these practices flourish unimpeded. Without a partner's consolation or distraction, you are compelled to find your comfort and your counsel. And in doing so, you discover something extraordinary, a wellspring of inner strength that no circumstance can fully deplete. So I ask you now, dear listener, will you undertake the deliberate work of reinforcing your citadel? Will you, in solitude, learn to stand not just unshaken, but unbreakable in that steadfast stillness? You become the master of your fate and the guardian of your peace. Part 3. Cultivating virtue and character. When you think of solitude, do you imagine only quiet mornings and empty rooms? In Stoic understanding, extended singlehood is also an invitation to cultivate the very root of a flourishing life, virtue. Seneca reminds us, virtue is nothing else than right reason. But what does it mean to live by right reason? It means your actions, your speech, your choices all spring from a place of thoughtful deliberation, guided by the cardinal virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. In your single season, you are unencumbered by the give and take of romantic entanglements. You can focus with laser clarity on aligning every decision with your highest principles. Ask yourself, am I acting out of genuine conviction, or simply reacting to other people's expectations? That small question, posed before each choice, what to say in a conversation, how to spend an afternoon, where to invest your energies, becomes a litmus test for character. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, invites us to imagine each action as observed by a wise sage. If it's not right, do not do it. If it's not true, do not say it. Pause then, before you speak. Let your words be measured, truthful, and beneficial. Pause too before you act. Let each movement, be it a work commitment, a creative endeavor, or a small kindness, reflect your inner standard of excellence. Consider a simple practice. Choose one virtue each week, perhaps generosity. Consciously look for opportunities to give, whether your time, your attention, or your resources. When you hold the door for a stranger, send an encouraging message to a friend, or donate to a cause you believe in, take note of how these acts stir your soul. You discover that virtue is not an abstract ideal, but the very pulse of a meaningful life. Epictetus elaborates on this process. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In solitude, you have the luxury of defining your ideal self without distraction. Who do you want to be tomorrow? Perhaps someone who greets challenges with calm, who treats opponents with fairness, who speaks with honesty even when falsehood might be easier. Then, map out concrete steps. Practice mindful listening in your conversations. Set a threshold for your emotional reactions, or schedule a daily reflection on how closely you lived up to your chosen ideal. This attention to character building deepens your emotional resilience. When a colleague criticizes your work or you face an unexpected setback, you lean on your cultivated virtues rather than on blame or self-pity. You ask, how can I respond with courage or with wisdom here? And you find yourself acting with equanimity instead of reactivity. I invite you now to a moment of reflection. Imagine looking back from your older, wiser self. What virtues would you be proud to have embodied? Which moments of integrity, compassion, or self-control would stand out? That vision is not a distant fantasy, it is the compass guiding your solitary practices today. In this period of being single longer, then, you are doing far more than filling idle hours. You are forging the very essence of who you will become. You are learning that genuine joy rises from living in harmony with your reasoned values, rather than from fleeting external pleasures, and in so doing, you awaken a quiet pride, the pride of knowing that, no matter what storms may come, your character remains unshakable. Part 4. The Impermanence of All Things. Have you ever held tightly to a moment, perhaps a relationship, a cherished routine, or a dream, and felt its edges begin to crumble in your hands? The Stoics teach us that such clinging breeds anguish, for all things in life are subject to change. Marcus Aurelius reminds himself, everything that happens as it should, and if you observe, you will find this to be so. Implicit in his words is the wisdom that loss is simply transformation, nature's ever-turning wheel. When you embrace extended singlehood, you practice anticipating change rather than resisting it. You learn to love the present without building a prison of expectation around it. Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, warns, you act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. How often have we set our hearts on permanence, thinking young love will never fade, convinced our friendships will endure untested, or certain that our health will remain inviolate? Yet the wheel turns, seasons shift, priorities realign, and people depart. Imagine for a moment that every relationship, every joy, every comfort is on loan, granted to you for a season. How would you treat it differently? Would you not immerse yourself fully in its beauty, offering gratitude rather than expectation? Epictetus challenges us, do not demand that things happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do happen, and you will go on well. In the fertile solitude of a single life, you can rehearse this attitude daily, expressing gratitude for what you have, even as you stand ready to let it go. This stance does not harden the heart. On the contrary, it deepens your capacity for compassion and joy. When you know that every smile, every embrace is transient, you lean in more tenderly. You practice saying thank you rather than stay, and in those words, you discover a profound freedom. A freedom born not from detachment in its cold sense, but from the warmth of unburdened engagement. Ask yourself now, what precious chapter of your life are you clutching to tightly? A past romance that lingers in your memory, a vision of the future that may never unfold exactly as planned. By acknowledging impermanence, you can release these attachments and create space for new experiences. You become like a seasoned traveler who packs light, ready to meet each destination with openness, rather than weighed down by excess baggage. In practical terms, try this brief daily exercise. Each evening, recall 3 moments that brought you joy or meaning. Speak them aloud or write them down, then imagine each one dissolving into memory. Notice the sense of peace that follows as you recognize their transience, yet remain grateful for their gift. Through this practice, you strengthen your inner freedom. You become less afraid of endings because you have trained yourself to see endings as beginnings, transformations that open doors to new growth. In the Stoic way, you learn to wave goodbye gracefully, knowing that every wave carries the promise of another shore. So, dear listener, will you welcome impermanence as an ally rather than fearing it as an enemy? Will you turn loss into transformation and change into your muse? In doing so, you will discover that within the shifting tides of life, your resilience and serenity stand unmoved. Part 5. Mastery of Time and Purposeful Living. Have you ever caught yourself letting hours slip away in idle scrolling or distracted chatter, only to wonder later where your day has gone? The Stoics urge us to treat time as our most precious currency, non-renewable and infinitely valuable. Seneca, in his profound treatise on the shortness of life, warns us, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." Life is long enough when you're single, free from the compromises of another's agenda. You hold the reins to your schedule. The question is, how will you invest in each of these irreplaceable moments? Think of your life as a ledger with every sunrise crediting you 24 hours. What will you debit against those hours? Epictetus advises, control your time, otherwise time will control you. In practice, this means designing intentional routines that align with your deepest aspiration. Perhaps you begin each morning with a brief period of silent reflection, identifying the single most meaningful task that day. By centering your attention on what truly matters, you transform each moment from a fleeting blur into an opportunity for growth. Marcus Aurelius reminds himself and us that you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This stark reminder of mortality, memento mori, is not meant to scare us, but to ignite urgency. When you recognize that any day could be your last, you stop postponing your ambitions. You seize the chance to learn a new language, craft that piece of writing, or build a habit of daily kindness. Each deliberate choice becomes a tribute to the time you've been granted. Now, pause and ask yourself, if today were the only day you had to make progress toward your deepest goal, what one action would you take? How often do we hide behind vague one-day dreams instead of forging ahead with concrete steps? In your solo season, you can track your progress with weekly reflections, celebrating small victories and recalibrating where you falter. This practice not only keeps you accountable, but also infuses your journey with tangible momentum. Stoic time mastery also acknowledges that rest and renewal are indispensable. Seneca counsels, take rest, a field that has rested gives a bountiful crop. Purposeful living includes knowing when to pause, when to step away from work or worry, and when to savor the simple pleasures: a walk in the sunlight, a good book, or an afternoon spent in creative play. These interludes replenish your spirit, ensuring that when you return to your goals, you do so with fresh energy and sharpened focus. In prolonged singlehood, you possess a unique laboratory for experimenting with your patterns of time. Will you structure your day around your highest priorities, or will you drift according to others' demands? Will you let time slip through your fingers, or will you clasp each moment firmly, molding it into a building block of your chosen life? The power lies within you. As the sun sets on today, reflect on how you have stewarded your hours. Tomorrow, commit to one clear intention, one purposeful action that advances your purpose. In the quiet discipline of daily practice, you will come to know the profound joy of a life lived not in the shadow of deadlines, but in the bright light of deliberate, stoic purpose. Part 6. Emotional Resilience Through Practice. Emotional resilience is the muscle that steadies us when life's waves threaten to overturn our boat. Yet resilience does not spring from wishful thinking, it is forged through intentional practice. Stoicism teaches that it is not events themselves that distress us, but our judgments about them. Epictetus declares plainly, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. When you are single longer, without leaning on a partner to soothe every sting, you encounter more opportunities to train your responses rather than react reflexively. Consider a moment of loneliness, on a quiet evening, or the pang of envy when you see friends posting photos with loved ones. In those instances, your mind offers a narrative, I am incomplete, or I am missing out. But recall Epictetus's counsel, between impulse and action, there lies a space of choice. In that space, you can pause and ask, is this judgment true? Is it helpful? Naming the thought, here is envy creates distance. You become the observer of your emotion rather than its captive. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He wrote in his Meditations, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Imagine having that power at your fingertips, the ability to revoke the suffering attached to any event. How liberating would it feel to recognize that you possess the ultimate veto over your emotional turmoil? But theory alone will not steel your nerves. You must practice. One simple exercise is the Stoic negative visualization. Each morning, briefly contemplate a potential discomfort: missing the bus, receiving criticism, or feeling ignored. Notice how your heart tightens at the thought. Then imagine responding with calm. You catch another bus, you receive feedback. Gratefully, you reach out to another friend. Over time, the shock of surprise diminishes, and you cultivate readiness. When the real challenge arrives, it feels less like a lightning strike and more like a gust of wind. You're already prepared to weather. Seneca also emphasizes the role of rehearsal. He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand. In a single life, the absence of a partner's constant reassurance may initially feel like a deficit. Yet this very absence is a gymnasium for your spirit. Each time you confront discomfort alone, be it rejection, boredom, or sadness, you flex the resilience muscle. You prove to yourself that you can survive, even thrive, without external crutches. Ask yourself, what recurring emotion trips you up most often? Is it anxiety before a social event, disappointment when plans change, or regret over past mistakes? Over days and weeks, these small victories accumulate. You begin to notice a calm steadiness in your inner life. The late-night worries hold less sway, the criticisms of others roll off more easily, and even setbacks feel like temporary ripples rather than tsunami waves. Ultimately, emotional resilience is not about suppressing feelings. It is about mastering your relationship with feelings. It means knowing that you can face any emotional storm without capsizing. From this vantage point of self-command, you cultivate not only peace of mind, but radiant confidence, the quiet certainty that whatever comes, you will meet it with unshakable composure. And that, dear listener, is one of the greatest fruits of embracing singlehood through a Stoic lens. Part 7. Preparing for future relationships from strength. As you walk the path of self-cultivation in extended singlehood, you're not closing the door on love, you're forging the very keys to open healthier, more balanced partnerships in the future. The Stoics did not see solitude as an end in itself, but as preparation for fully engaged living. Seneca reminds us that one of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood. Yet to give a genuine understanding, you must first know yourself deeply and stand firmly on your own defeat. Imagine entering a relationship like two master architects collaborating, each bringing a well-designed structure to the project, rather than to incomplete builders scrambling to prop each other up. Epictetus counsels, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In solitary practice, you've charted who you wish to become: someone who acts with integrity, who communicates clearly, and who holds healthy boundaries. When a future partner arrives, you won't seek them out of need, but out of abundant choice. Consider a simple question. When was the last time you felt utterly whole in your own company? That sense of wholeness is the foundation from which generosity and compassion naturally flow. Marcus Aurelius instructs, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. In relationships, this means living the virtues you admire: kindness, patience, honesty before expecting them from another. You become the example, the standard, and you silently invite your partner to meet you there. But strength does not preclude vulnerability. Indeed, true strength lies in the courage to show your authentic self. Epictetus teaches that to bear trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength and burden. When you have weathered life's trials alone, rejection, loss, uncertainty, you carry scars that tell a story of survival. Sharing that story with a partner from a place of calm confidence creates intimacy rooted in mutual respect. You are not broken pieces seeking repair. You are two whole souls choosing to walk together. Ask yourself now, what qualities will you bring into your next relationship? What boundaries will you hold sacred time for self-reflection, commitments to personal growth, the right to speak your mind? By defining these in advance, you prevent the erosive compromises that can creep into partnerships fueled by dependency, rather than mutual empowerment. This clarity ensures that love becomes a partnership of equals, each supporting the others. Flourishing. In practice, you might draft a personal covenant or pledge outlining how you wish to show up in love. Perhaps you vow to speak honestly, to honor your partner's autonomy, to listen deeply without rushing to judgment. Revisit this pledge in moments of doubt or conflict. Let it be the compass that guides you back to your best self, ultimately. By preparing for future relationships from a place of inner abundance, you transform the very nature of the partnership. You will love not because you need filling, but because you have an overflow of care and respect to share. And in that overflow, you forge connections that are not fragile dependencies, but radiant alliances to resilient souls, rooted in Stoic strength, flourishing together in life's ever-turning journey. And so our journey through the Stoic path of singlehood comes to a close. We've explored solitude as a mirror to the soul, forged self-reliance in the citadel of our minds, cultivated virtue as our guiding star, embraced the impermanence of all things, mastered our time with purpose, and built the emotional resilience that carries us through life's storms, all in preparation for relationships born of strength rather than need. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I'm deeply grateful for your attention, your openness, and your courage to look inward. Remember Marcus Aurelius' parting thought: at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of? If I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do. Your work, your journey toward inner fortitude continues beyond this episode. If today's reflections resonated with you, please give this video a like, share it with someone who might benefit from Stoic strength, and subscribe for more insights on living with calm clarity and unwavering resolve. Leave a comment below. Which Stoic practice will you carry into your days ahead? Until next time, stand firm in your solitude, open your heart to growth, and walk boldly into every moment. Farewell and be well.